Hey guys, I'm the Strongman Historian and today we are gonna talk about the 2000s. If you've seen my 90s video, you already know how this works, but if you didn't, let me explain. Basically, I go through every single year of the decade and I try to tell you who are the best strongmen each year. It's pretty simple some years, but some years are just impossible and I have to mention a lot of names, so sorry for that, but it is what it is. Without further ado, let's begin the new millennium. Did Jouko Ahola continue his dominance from the end of the 90s? Well, he didn't. He remained pretty heavily involved with World's Strongest Man, but no longer as a competitor. The door was left open and the other Finn Virtanen took the crown. Janne was off the podium in the year 2000 only once, and that was in 4th place. On his way to World's Strongest Man, he won the IFSA Grand Prix in Finland and the Beauty and the Beast show in Hawaii. He got beaten by Magnus Samuelsson and Mariusz Pudzianowski at IFSA Poland, but he got his revenge when it mattered the most and he won the World's Strongest Man title ahead of 4 past and future champions. He finished the year off with 3 podiums at IFSA shows and without a doubt he was the best strongman in the year 2000. The World's Strongest Man champion from 1998, Magnus Samuelsson, was coming into World's Strongest Man dominating the IFSA circuit, beating Janne more often than not, but there was no stopping the young Finn in the World's Strongest Man final. With him winning 4 IFSA shows, beating Janne, he might as well have been the best, but as the saying goes, you have to beat the champion to be the champion, and Janne certainly did it at the World's Strongest Man. Svend Karlsen was gunning for the World's Strongest Man title as well, after finishing 3rd in Malta the previous year. But he was just a step behind Janne and Magnus. Even though he was constantly top 4 at the IFSA circuit, he only beat Janne once in Ireland, and Magnus was flawless against him in the year 2000. That is, until World's Strongest Man, where Svend finished in a Nordic sandwich between Janne and Magnus. Hugo Girard was good enough to give the top 3 a run for their money, but an unfortunate neck injury in the Power Stairs at Worlds robbed him of the chance at the title. However, his performances throughout the year were good enough for a spot just outside of the top 3. Just like in 1999, the strongest man from the Netherlands, Berend Wennerberg, was up there with the best. His win at Europe's Strongest Man proves that, but he simply didn't compete enough to warrant a considerations for the higher spots. Just a year after the start of the Polish scene, the duo of Jarek Dimek and Mariusz Pudzianowski was starting to show their quality, and perhaps it was a foreshadowing of what's to come during the 2000s.
3rd 2 years ago, 2nd last year.
1st this year, had no doubt.
There is a reason why Svend Karlsen is one of only 4 people in the World's Strongest Man Hall of Fame. For over a decade, he was among the best strongmen on the planet, and the year 2001 was his crowning achievement. If he was competing, you best believe he is taking a trophy home that year. He was never off the podium in 2001. He won the Europe's Strongest Man ahead of Janne Virtanen, Magnus Samuelsson, and a guy called Big Z. After finishing 3rd at World's Strongest Man in 1999, 2nd in 2000, there was only one spot on the podium left for him to claim. And he climbed to the top, winning World's Strongest Man ahead of Magnus Samuelsson and Janne Virtanen. A step behind Svend, there was a trio of absolute killers.
I would say between myself, Magnus and Svend. Of course, Janne. You always have to count the Finn.
It was like a rock, paper, scissors with these guys. Janne beat Svend and Magnus at IFSA Poland. Magnus obviously beat Hugo, Svend and Janne in Sweden. Hugo beat both Svend and Magnus at the Czech Grand Prix. Magnus beat all 3 of them in Holland. But I think I'll give the nod to Magnus. Even though he was already 3 years removed from his World's Strongest Man title, he was still bringing it to every competition. And to be honest, at World's Strongest Man that year, he finished only 2 points behind Svend, and that's with zeroing the squad. Magnus was just incredible. Talking about someone incredible, we have to talk about Hugo. This man could beat anyone, and I mean anyone, any day of the week. As the reigning Canada's and North America's strongest man, His hopes going into World's Strongest Man were high. His wins against Samuelsson, Karlsen, Bergmanis and Magnus Samuelsson only strengthened that belief. But, as it was always with Hugo, he never could do it in a week-long competition and he finished in a disappointing 6th place at World's Strongest Man. The fact that the 6th place finish at World's Strongest Man can be seen as a disappointment speaks volumes about Hugo. Unfortunately for Janne, he wasn't the 2000 Janne. He was still a guaranteed podium finisher against the best guys, but he no longer was the best guy anymore. There was also this tall American guy with a huge mouth on him.
He's gone past and he's won, but he wants to put on a bit of a show here.
He was just good. He was 4th at World's Strongest Man. He beat Svend, Janne and Zydrunas in Hawaii. He finished just behind Hugo and Jeff Dolan and North America's Strongest Man. You could see the potential of this guy. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about him in the future. And in every single competition, just behind these guys, there was the consistent German, Martin Muir. 2002 would be the beginning of a new era. The era of Mariusz Pudzianowski. It all began at Europe's Strongest Man, where he dominated against Karlsen, Virtanen, Muir, Savickas and Dimek, winning 5 of the 6 events. It was a similar story at WSM, as he captured his first World's Strongest Man title. Funny enough, he didn't win Poland's Strongest Man because of Jarek Dimek. Mariusz was the best in the world, but at this point he was still beatable. Svend was still the man to beat this year. He won muscle power against Virtanen, Girard and Dimek. He beat Rasanen, Savickas and Minkwitz in China, but at the Arnolds, and Svend said it himself, he should have beaten Mark Henry, but he didn't. World's Strongest Man was also a disappointment, as he only finished in 6th place. He beat a stacked lineup of Savickas, Muir, Pudzianowski, Bergmanis, Dimek and Rasanen at the Sweden Grand Prix, setting a new log lift world record in the process, but he still finished only 2nd to Hugo Girard. And once again, Hugo was a monster. He beat Muir, Bergmanis and Dimek in Canada. He came 2nd behind Svend at muscle power. He was coming into World's Strongest Man as the reigning Canada Strongest Man, but once again he underperformed, only coming in 7th. But Hugo was still not done for the season. He won the North America Strongest Man, he won a Super Series show in Sweden and Hawaii, and the names that he beat include some of the best guys in the world: Pudzianowski, Karlsen, Bergmanis, Savickas, Dimek, Muir, Rasanen and many more. Hugo was a beast. Janne had an amazing start to the year as he dominated IFSA shows in Poland, Finland and Turkey. But in muscle power he only came 3rd, and with the 4th place finish at Europe's, his hopes of repeating a World's Strongest Man victory were fading. A thigh injury in the heats of World's Strongest Man would make him completely miss out on the finals. And now I'm gonna talk about someone I've already mentioned, and I'll mention him many times throughout the rest of the video, and that's Zydrunas Savickas. The start of the year was not good for Zydrunas, but that's understandable. On the 1-year anniversary of what was possibly a career-ending injury, he won the title of Lithuania's Strongest Man. Then a 3-way tie at IFSA show in Finland bumped him off of the podium, but finally at World's Strongest Man he showed the world what he was capable of, as he finished in 2nd place. For the rest of the year he wouldn't finish off the podium. We are staying in the Baltics, but now in Latvia. Raimons Bergmanis delivered when it mattered the most, and he finished 5th at the Arnolds and 3rd at Worlds. Obviously, I have to mention Mark Henry. He only did the Arnold Strongman Classic, but he managed to beat the best strongman from 2001, and that is well deserving of a mention. Also, I want to shout out Rene Minkwitz, Juha-Matti Rasanen, and rest in peace to Johnny Perry. 2003 was the first year when Mariusz Pudzianowski lived up to the name Dominator. There was no stopping Mariusz. He beat Menace, Savickas and Girard at the Super Series in Hawaii. However, at the Arnold's he only came 4th. In the next 11 competitions, he won 7 of them and finished 2nd in the rest. This year he won it all. Poland's, Europe's, World's. He was without a doubt the best strongman in the world.
Yes, I am very happy.
However, as I already mentioned, there was a challenger. Zydrunas won the heaviest show of the year, the Arnold Strongman Classic, beating Svend Karlsen, Menace and Mariusz. Z came 4th at Europe's, behind Pudzianowski, Dimek and Menace, and sure, the rest of the year wasn't the best for Z, but he performed when it mattered, and once again came 2nd at World's Strongest Man. Some days, not even Mariusz Pudzianowski could beat Hugo Girard. He beat Pudzian, Samuelsson, Dimek, Savickas, Karlsen, Virtanen, Menace, Minkwitz, Muir, all of them at muscle power. He beat Pudzianowski again at IFSA Grand Prix in Finland and in Canada. Hugo also set the new log lift world record with 186 kilograms, but it's Hugo Girard, so he only finished 7th at Worlds. I'm now gonna talk about Raymond Menace, and Menace podiumed at Strongman Super Series in Hawaii and Finland, as well at IFSA Poland Grand Prix. To top it all off, he came 3rd at Arnold's, 3rd at Europe's and 4th at Worlds. What a year for the Latvian. Svend was past his prime now, but the 2nd place finish at the Arnold's proves that even old Sven was good enough to compete with the best of them. After tearing a biceps at the 2002 World's Strongest Man, Magnus Samuelsson came back and was once again fighting for a podium at every competition he entered, with his best finish in 2003 being tied 4th at World's Strongest Man and 3rd at Muscle Power.
Number 1! Zydrunas Savickas, Lithuania, 2 times Arnold Strongest Man champion.
In 2004, Zydrunas for the first time took the spot at the top as the best strongman in the world. At the beginning of the year, he took the Arnold Strongman Classic for a 2nd time in a row, ahead of Karlsen, Menace, Filippi, Pudzianowski and Virastyuk. That year he would podium further 10 times with the World's Strongest Man title, escaping him only by 1 point. This was also the first year he would set a log lift world record. The Dominator was now beatable. Despite Mariusz not winning Worlds or the Arnolds, I still believe he was the 2nd best in 2004. He still beat everyone. He won the most contests that year and he remained the Europe's Strongest Man. He finished 3rd at Worlds, 1 point behind Z and 2 points behind Vasil. If he won, the conversation might have been different. The 2004 World's Strongest Man Vasil Virastyuk rounds out the top 3. Now with the Arnolds, winning Worlds isn't the only thing that matters. To not make it sound like he only did well at Worlds, think of any name, Vasil beat them that year. But the 6th place finish at the Arnold Strongman Classic just knocks him down a bit. In my opinion, of course. Let me know if you agree. Raymond Menace continued his amazing form into 2004. 3rd at Arnold's, 4th at Worlds, beating Zydrunas at the IFSA Baltic Championships and being the first man to log lift 190 kilograms for a new world record. If that doesn't tell you how good he was, nothing will.
Sven, was that enough?
No way. But at least I did my best. And more than that I can do. Oh, this is Zydrunas' day.
At this time, Sven was the only one who could push Zydrunas at the Arnolds. He once again finished 2nd at the heaviest show of the year, and yeah, he would still podium at shows, but it just wasn't the same Sven. In the heats at World's Strongest Man he injured his leg. He did make the final, but he finished last.
When I started this, me and Sven came up together, and then I said to my wife, I don't care about the other guys. As long as I beat Sven, I'm happy. The only problem with Sven was he turned out to be a really great strongman. So I think we actually have been chasing each other.
Yeah, we helped each other a lot during these years.
And
It's 10 years together and still going strong. New guys come and go, but we still on.
yeah,
Magnus Samuelsson was still able to do well in shows, but he wasn't the guaranteed podium finisher anymore. Despite that, he managed to overcome Savickas, Karlsen and Virastyuk at Sweden Grand Prix, winning it, and he also finished 4th at Worlds. The ranking will be a bit tougher from 2005 onwards because of the IFSA split, but don't worry, I'll manage.
So let's hear it. What does it feel like to win again?
I am very happy, third time in a row. I am so happy.
It's a shame that we wouldn't see Zydrunas versus Mariusz because he just hit his prime. He won everything in 2005. Arnold's, IFSA Worlds, IFSA Europes, he just didn't lose. He also took back his world log lift record, hitting 200 kilos for the first time and pushing it even further to 202.5 at IFSA Europes. Just like Zydrunas, Mariusz didn't lose a single time in 2005. Let me ask you, what will win, an unstoppable force or the immovable object? In this case, I have to say Zydrunas Savickas. The IFSA roster was stacked. Mariusz was incredible, don't get me wrong, but the guys that were on his level left to IFSA. He had nobody to challenge him left. That being said, I think he was better than the previous year and that's why I put him at 2nd.
Thank you. Polska górą!
Vasil got injured at IFSA Europes and he didn't compete much, but he was the man who pushed Zydrunas when it mattered, as he came 2nd at the Arnolds and IFSA Worlds. In 2005, a new name entered the picture, Mikhail Koklyaev. Even though he was new to the sport coming from Olympic weightlifting, Misha was from the start one of the best in the world. He was able to beat the established guys like Bergmanis, Karlsen, Samuelsson and Pfister, and he finished the year as a 3rd place finisher at IFSA Worlds. Another relatively new name that burst onto the scene was Andrus Muromets. And just like Misha, he was able to finish well at IFSA Worlds, finishing in 4th. The era of the Vikings was nearing the end as both Svend and Magnus were on their way out. As I've already mentioned, all of these guys other than Mariusz were in IFSA, but to be fair to the other guys like Janne Virtanen, Jesse Murende and Jarek Dimek were really good. Zydrunas was once again the undisputably best strongman in the world, this time even beating Mariusz at the Arnolds. He kept his IFSA Worlds title and just like usual, he won a lot. There is nothing more to add, Zydrunas was the best. Mikhail Koklyaev was 3rd at the Arnolds, he finished ahead of Phil Pfister and Mariusz Pudzianowski. He won the IFSA in Russia and in Hungary, beating Vasil Virastyuk in both. That's pretty much the reason why I ranked him above Vasil. They had a very similar year, but Misha also beat Zydrunas in Russia. Vasil was 3rd at IFSA Worlds, behind Z and Misha, but he beat him at the Arnolds where he finished 2nd. Mariusz was dominating the World's Strongest Man circuit, but the 6th place finish at the Arnold Strongman Classic further proves that the IFSA guys were just a step ahead of his competition. Even though he won 10 shows, he lost his World's Strongest Man title to Phil Pfister. Some people might say that he was unlucky, but winning 5 of the 7 events isn't luck. That's just how good Phil was that year. His 4th place finish at the Arnolds, where he also beat Mariusz, just confirms that.
What do you want to say to the people back home and around the world now that you are the world's strongest man?
I did it my way, and no one can stop you if you want to do it your way.
I have to shout out the Baltic boys Andrus Muromets and Vidas Blekaitis. They were doing real damage in IFSA. The 2007 Arnold was a 2-horse race, but as usual, there was no beating Zydrunas at the Arnolds. Vasil was 4 points short, 9.5 points ahead of 3rd place. But for the rest of the year, Vasil was the best strongman in the world. He won the trifecta. He won Ukraine's, IFSA Europe's and IFSA Worlds. At Worlds, he was just a step ahead of the chasing pack of Koklyaev, Savickas, Poundstone, Muromets, Blekaitis and Szczepański. It's crazy that the third place finish at IFSA Worlds and winning the Arnold is considered a bad year for Zydrunas, but even a bad year was good enough for him to be the second best in the world. Making Mariusz angry was never a good idea. He came back after losing his title and he came back to dominate. He won everything. Europe's, Worlds and every other comp he entered. Other than the Super Series show in Venice Beach. Shout out to Dave Oslund.
It's a good day for Team Minnesota. Carl and myself are both top 4, and with the points on the stones, I ended up 1 point ahead of Mariusz.
Oh, come on, look happier, man. You excited, aren't you?
I'm very excited, yeah. I'm kind of in shock right now, so this is great.
You realize that no one's beaten Mariusz in the Super Series in a very, very, very long time.
For eight straight competitions, so I'm elated right now. I don't know what to say.
Andrus Muromets is not talked about enough. He was an absolute beast. In the 2007 season, he was beaten by only 4 men, those being Vasil, Zydrunas, Misha and Derek Poundstone. Him and Zydrunas were the only men to beat Vasil in his absolute prime in 2007. Andrus is well deserving of a spot above the guys I'm about to mention. Bill Pfister once again proved his quality by finishing 4th at Worlds as well as the Arnolds. However, I think Mikhail Koklyaev was even better. Even though Phil finished 3 points ahead of him at the Arnolds, Misha managed to beat Zydrunas at IFSA Worlds. Only 2 men can say that. IFSA was absolutely stacked at this point, as I didn't even really get to mention guys like Vidas Blekaitis and Robert Szczepański, but they were absolutely elite. Talking about elite, there was one American I have to establish before we get to 2008. I'm sure a lot of you know him, and it's Derek Poundstone. As the reigning America's strongest man, he came to IFSA World Championships and finished only 1 point behind Z in 4th place. To not be completely biased to the IFSA guys, I believe guys like Sebastian Venta and Terry Hollands could compete in IFSA. 2008 is where it gets interesting. Vasil got injured early in the year and that's the last time we've seen him. IFSA was running into financial trouble and the World Championships wouldn't happen in 2008. However, a huge change happened. We didn't only have the Arnolds and Worlds, but we also had the Fortissimus. It was one of the hardest competitions to win and well, the strongest man on earth we have nowadays is the spiritual continuation of Fortissimus. It was arguably even tougher to win than the other 3 comps. But let's talk about the Arnolds first. Zydrunas, as was pretty much a tradition at this point, won the Arnold Strongman Classic with Derek Poundstone in 2nd and Mikhail Koklyaev in 3rd. Zydrunas would dominate the Strongman Champions League circus in the lead up to Fortissimus, winning in Latvia, Serbia and Holland. However, Andrus Muromets beat him in Bulgaria. Robert Szczepański also took a very valuable scalp in a Polish competition, beating Zydrunas by 1 point. Coming into Fortissimus, Zydrunas was the overwhelming favorite. During the brutal 10-event competition, both Z and Derek exchanged blows, and this absolute nail-biter came down to one of the most legendary moments in the sport. He loaded 2 of the natural stones, believing the 3rd one to be unliftable. Only Derek Poundstone was left to go. He had a different idea. Derek was on another level this year. Imagine competing against 2 of the greatest strongmen of all time and giving them the business. Poundstone finished 2nd to Z at Arnold's, he beat him at Fortissimus and he was 1 stone slip away from beating Mariusz at Worlds. Despite the tragedy, he had already proven that year that he was as good as if not better than Mariusz by beating him at the Mohegan Sun. That's how great Derek was in 2008. And talking about Mariusz, he still won Worlds. In the end, mistake or not, Derek was beaten fair and square. Mariusz was once again Poland's, Europe's and the world's strongest man. And as if I have to say it, he was without a doubt one of the best strongmen on the planet. The Texas Stone man Travis Ortmeyer was on fire. Every competition he did, he was fighting for a podium. Every single one. He managed to beat all the top Americans in the Madison Square Garden, finishing way ahead of Derek Poundstone, Dave Oslund and young Brian Shaw. His 5th place finish at Fortissimus and Worlds only proves how great Travis was. Right behind Travis was this man. Misha took 3rd just behind Zydrunas and Derek at the Arnolds. Only 4 men managed to push Zydrunas into 2nd this year. Misha was one of them. He joined the elite company of Andrus Muromets, Derek Poundstone and Robert Szczepański at the SCL Finland. And to portray just how hard Fortissimus was, Misha only came in 6th place. Andrus came 4th at the Arnolds. He bested Zydrunas at the Strongman Champions League in Bulgaria and added 2 further SCL podiums in Serbia and Holland. Unfortunately, the 10-event Fortissimus was too much for him and he got injured and was forced to withdraw, only finishing in 9th. The decade is coming to a close as we are in 2009 and after 4 years we finally get to see everyone compete together at the World's Strongest Man. So, who was the best in 2009? This was never even a question. It was obviously Zydrunas Savickas. After losing the 2008 Fortissimus to Derek Poundstone, he skipped the Arnolds to focus on the 2009 edition. He finished 1st in 6 out of the 10 events, easily beating Derek Poundstone and young Brian Shaw, who completed the podium.
I feel very good. I have a new one trophy in my collection. I am happy. It was a very hard contest, one of the hardest in my life, and I'm very happy to win this.
He was coming into World's Strongest Man determined to prove that the IFSA guys were indeed stronger and that he was the strongest among them, so there would be no question that for all of these years he was the best. And he proved it. He beat everyone including Mariusz, winning the competition 5 points ahead of the pole, finally winning his first World's Strongest Man title. He finished the year dominating the SCL circuit, winning everything despite the best efforts of some of the best strongmen at the time, like Muromets, Dimek, Ortmeyer and Katona. But as I said, Z wasn't at the Arnolds that year, so we were guaranteed a new champion. Derek Poundstone took it upon himself to wear that crown. After a tough battle with Mikhail Koklyaev and a legendary dumbbell performance in the last event, he came out victorious. But that was just the beginning. 2nd year in a row he won the Mohegan Sun, beating the other top Americans Ortmeyer and Shaw, as well as Louis-Philippe Jean, Mikhail Koklyaev and Johannes Arho. Derek would further his claim at being the best American by winning the America's Strongest Man. At Fortissimus, as I already mentioned, he came short, finishing in 2nd. At World's Strongest Man, however, he failed to make the podium, finishing in 4th. Obviously, the Dominator can't be left off of the list. He was still the man. He won the Globe's Strongest Man, as well as Europe's and Poland's. However, that was against the WSM guys. The real test came at Worlds, but Zydrunas in his prime was something else. This was unfortunately the last year of Mariusz in Strongman. It would have been great to see Mariusz challenge Z in the early 2010s, but there was another. Brian Shaw was no longer a rookie. However, he still needed a year to truly challenge Zydrunas, but the potential was clear to see as he finished 3rd at Fortissimus as well as World's Strongest Man. However, when he competed at the Super Series, he was clearly the man to beat. If you haven't noticed yet, the Americans were really good. Travis Ortmeyer came 3rd at the Arnolds, 4th at Fortissimus and 5th at Worlds. Wasn't in the argument with the best above him, but just like Brian, he was still good enough to win one-day shows. Mikhail Koklyaev almost won the Arnolds, don't forget that. He did, however, win the SCL in Serbia and Holland and still finished 5th at Fortissimus. Might as well be higher, but I'll let you guys decide. And with that said, we are done with the 2000s. But before I end it, let me mention some guys that absolutely deserve it. Guys like Terry Hollands, Stojan Todorcev, Tommy Lotta, Ervin Katona, Mark Felix, Stefan Solvi Persson, Nick Best, Tarmo Mitt, Louis-Philippe Jean, Glenn Ross, Carl Gillingham, Dominic Filiu, as well as many others. But if I was to name them all, we would be here all day. So thank you guys for watching. I'm the Strongman Historian. I would appreciate if you like this video, subscribed. I'll do the 2010s, 2020s, and I'll finish the 80s as well. If you haven't seen the 1990s video, go check that one out. I'll put it on screen. And yeah, I'm the Strongman Historian. Thank you for watching. Bye.